If someone asked you to describe a perfectionist, you'd probably picture someone successful, organized, high-achieving, maybe a little intense, but fundamentally fine, maybe even admirable. What you probably wouldn't picture is someone who is quietly exhausted, who finishes a project and immediately scans it for what's wrong, who cannot receive a compliment without mentally disqualifying it, who avoids starting things because not starting feels safer than the risk of doing them imperfectly, who holds themselves to a standard they would never in a million years apply to someone they love. That's perfectionism too. Actually, that's perfectionism more accurately than the first picture. Today we're pulling it apart. What it actually is, where it comes from, what it costs, and what genuinely helps. And if you want all of that distilled into a single reference you can keep and use, the Perfectionism Cheat Sheet is linked in the description. Let's get into it. Section 1. What perfectionism actually is. Perfectionism is not the same as having high standards. That distinction matters because it is the one perfectionists most often use to defend the pattern, "I just have high standards," and it is the one that keeps them from examining what is actually driving it. High standards are about the work. Perfectionism is about the self. When you have high standards, you want to do something excellently because excellence matters to you. When you are perfectionistic, you need to do something perfectly because imperfection feels like evidence of something wrong with you, your worth, your competence, your right to take up space. Researchers distinguish between two broad types. Adaptive perfectionism involves high standards combined with the psychological flexibility to tolerate mistakes, learn from them, and move forward. Maladaptive perfectionism, which is what most people mean when they say the word, involves high standards combined with harsh self-criticism, fear of failure, and the belief that anything less than perfect is equivalent to failure. The goal is not excellence. The goal is the absence of the shame that imperfection produces. And this is the key insight: maladaptive perfectionism is not really about performance at all. It is a self-protection strategy. It is an attempt to outrun judgment, other people's, and more relentlessly, your own. Section 2. Where it comes from. Perfectionism doesn't form in a vacuum. It develops, reliably and understandably, in specific relational and environmental conditions. The most common origin is conditional approval, growing up in an environment where love, attention, or acceptance was more reliably available when you performed well than when you simply existed. The child who receives warmth and praise for achievements and subtle withdrawal or criticism for mistakes learns, efficiently and correctly, that performance is protection. That doing well is the safest way to be. That the bar for being enough is set somewhere just above wherever they currently are. This is why calling perfectionism a trauma response isn't hyperbole. It may not fit the dramatic definition of trauma most people carry in their heads. But the relentless self-monitoring, the terror of being found inadequate, the inability to internalize success while immediately absorbing failure, these are the hallmarks of a nervous system that learned, early on, that imperfection was dangerous. Perfectionism also thrives in high criticism environments, families, schools, or cultures that communicate that mistakes are shameful rather than instructive. And it is heavily amplified by social comparison, which in the current landscape of curated digital performance means that virtually everyone is now living inside a perfectionism amplifying environment, essentially all of the time. Section 3. What it costs you. The cost of perfectionism is rarely visible from the outside, because perfectionism is often producing the very results that make it look like it is working. The high grade, the flawless presentation, the meticulously managed impression. And so the internal price goes unexamined. The first cost is anxiety, the chronic, low-level hum of anticipating the next failure, the next judgment, the next moment when the performance will slip and something true and terrible about you will be exposed. Perfectionism and anxiety are so consistently co-occurring in the clinical literature that many researchers treat maladaptive perfectionism as a specific form of anxiety rather than a separate construct. The second cost is procrastination, which is the perfectionist's most confusing symptom, because it looks like the opposite of the pattern. But procrastination and perfectionism are deeply linked. If the standard is perfection, and perfection is not guaranteed, then not starting is rational. Not starting means not failing. The blank page is threatening not because the person doesn't care but because they care so much, and the gap between what they might produce and what the internal standard demands feels insurmountable before they've even begun. The third cost is the inability to feel genuinely satisfied. Perfectionism moves the goalposts. Every achievement is immediately reframed as the new baseline. The promotion becomes the thing you were supposed to get, not the thing you earned. The finished project is evaluated against what it could have been rather than what it is. The compliment is disqualified because the person giving it doesn't know about the flaw you noticed. There is no resting place inside perfectionism. There is only the next thing to do well enough. And the fourth cost, one that therapists see constantly, is relational: the exhaustion of performing for the people you love, the difficulty being truly known because being truly known means being seen imperfectly, and the unconscious tendency to apply the same merciless standard to others that you apply to yourself. Section 4. What actually helps? The goal of working with perfectionism is not to stop caring about quality. It is to decouple your worth from your performance, which is the belief that perfectionism installed and the one that keeps the whole system running. Self-compassion is the single most evidence-supported intervention for maladaptive perfectionism, and it is also the one perfectionists most reliably resist. Kristen Neff's research is unambiguous. Self-compassion is associated with higher motivation, better learning from mistakes, and greater resilience after failure, not with lowered standards or complacency, which is what perfectionists fear it will produce. The inner critic is not what drives excellence. It is what drives exhaustion. And treating yourself with the same warmth you would offer a struggling friend is not indulgence. It is one of the most powerful things you can do. Cognitive restructuring, examining and challenging the automatic thoughts that perfectionism generates, is the CBT tool most directly applicable. The thought "I must do this perfectly or I have failed" is not a fact. It is a cognitive distortion, specifically all or nothing thinking, the binary of perfect or worthless, that leaves no room for the reality that almost everything worth doing lives somewhere in between. Catching the thought, naming it, and offering a more accurate alternative, "I can do this well without doing it perfectly, and that is enough," is a practice that compounds over time. Tolerating the discomfort of good enough is a behavioral practice, and it is, for many perfectionists, the hardest one. Not because they don't understand it intellectually, but because the moment of choosing to stop, to submit, to publish, to send, when the work is good but not perfect, produces a genuine and uncomfortable physiological response. That discomfort is the old alarm system doing its job. It is not accurate information about the quality of the work. Practicing sitting with it, repeatedly, builds the tolerance that no amount of cognitive insight alone can produce. And for therapists, perfectionism in the clinical room often looks like the client who apologizes for crying, who minimizes their pain, who comes prepared with self-analysis to demonstrate they are already working hard enough to deserve your help. Naming the perfectionism pattern in the therapeutic relationship itself, with curiosity and warmth, not confrontation, is frequently where the most important work begins. Perfectionism convinced you that the standard was about the work. But you've probably known for a while that it was never really about the work. It was about the belief, quiet, persistent, and almost certainly installed before you were old enough to question it, that your worth is conditional. That you have to keep earning it. That the moment you stop performing, something will be revealed about you that confirms your worst fear. That belief is not the truth about you. It is a story that made sense once, in a specific environment, for specific reasons. And it can be examined, challenged, and gradually, with real practice and real self-compassion, released. The Perfectionism Cheat Sheet is in the description: the types, the cognitive distortions, the costs, and the tools, all in one clean reference. It's there for your own use and for therapists working with clients who are running on this particular, exhausting fuel. If this landed for you, share it with the person in your life who is never quite satisfied with themselves no matter how well they do. They need to hear this too. And I'll see you in the next one.